Now, I voted for this Conservative government. I don't think that's any secret. I voted for it to actually emancipate, not immiserate, the working class, to actually give hope and opportunity to forgotten communities like that one I was brought up in County Durham, not to force a choice between heating and eating in one of the biggest economies in the world. But I'm afraid that's what's taking place today under this con-socialist government. I'm bored of talking about cake. I want the media to focus on what policies politicians push through via woke sound bites on a radical green agenda, pushed by elites whilst we're sat on a plentiful supply of gas right now, but deliberately choose to import it instead. It's the same with coal. What do you think builds those great big windmills of steel and cement? And folks, I wonder if those calling for these gargantuan subsidies in those windmills and away from gas have ever had to choose between warmth or food. I'm going to guess no. And that's what makes me so angry, right? Privileged politicians in power that haven't a clue. It won't be those gorging on cake during lockdown that actually do it for Boris. It'll be the tax rises, the illegal migration crisis, the spending money on housing foreigners over our veterans, the net zero plan, the COVID loan fraud, and much of the lockdown madness that has pushed us further into debt than we already were, causing spiralling inflation. That'll be what does it for Boris. According to reports on Downing Street, many pro-green advisers and other eco-fanatics close to the Johnson household matter more to the Prime Minister than the Conservative Party's new voters. Voters set to be squeezed tighter by this cost of living crisis than my suit trousers here post-lockdown. One of the reasons I campaigned for Boris, and for Brexit indeed, was to fix the democratic deficit. No longer, you see, could our MPs turn around and say, well, you see, guys, there's nought we can do about it because it's laws set by Brussels. It's out of our hands, mate. Don't look at me, Gov. Well, now, lawmaking is very much in the hands of Boris and his 80-seat majority. But, folks, as they march ahead with net zero policies that'll leave us all colder and poorer, I would argue that it's time the British people were given a say over this green extreme plan to decarbonise the entire British economy. All of the major political parties had net zero form part of their manifestos in 2019's election. However, just like for such a long time, membership of the EU was a central plank of each of the manifesto parties' the commitments they put forward in those manifestos, so now is net zero. So I say, folks, a referendum on net zero, one in which the government has to set out what this asphyxiating noose around the British economy's neck will mean for us all, is vital. Rishi Sunak has said that higher energy prices are something we will have to get used to. Well, I'm sorry, Rishi, but I don't agree with that at all. Higher energy prices are the result of deliberate government policy. We shouldn't learn to live with them any more than we should learn to live with governments that foist them upon us. What will it mean to impose green taxes on gas that the Institute for Fiscal Studies reckons will hit the poorest the hardest? What will it mean to ban petrol and diesel cars for electric models that are far pricier? What will it mean to impose a less reliable heat pump upon us all that currently costs between 8 grand and 14,000 quid? What will it mean if we set a tax upon meat, as the government's Behavioural Insights team has posited? What will it mean to tell hard-working Brits that unless innovative green technologies come galloping down the hill like a knight on a valiant steed, we would have to fly much less, or not at all, frankly, for going your one foreign holiday a year? I'll tell you what it'll mean. It'll mean that a country that emits 1% of global CO2 emissions makes life very nice for those who can afford it, but leaves the rest of us colder and poorer. I think it's time for a rethink on this miserable madness. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Rishi Sunak's got it all right, folks, and we just have to get used to this. And the That, frankly, some families getting 350 quid to help them adjust to higher prices is just fine, even though only £150 will arrive by the time energy bills rise in April. I think it's time for a yes-no referendum on net zero that gives us all the facts and finally puts this debate to the public and not just to the Prime Minister.